you planning on upgrading your current gaming PC or building a brand new one sometime soon? If so, don't. No, really, do not. I repeat, do not do either of those things right now. You're going to get screwed. This is unprecedentedly a terrible time to build a new gaming PC, and here are a few reasons why. Graphics card stock levels have ever so slowly been returning to normal ever since the cryptocurrency mining craze started to die out nearing the end of the last year. Many of us were finally able to get our hands on some decent graphics hardware at prices approaching what they should have been all along. It was glorious. I mean, it seems like it was forever ago when the 1070 Ti launched and all the cards seemed to be at the right price. And even Vega cards were able to be found at MSRP. And then GPU mineable coins took off in a big way, wreaking absolute havoc on the GPU market along the way. Mining with GPUs was once again stupidly profitable. So profitable that it was easy to understand why miners were buying up every card they could get their hands on. I mean, before the latest spike, the GTX 1066 gig and the RX 584 gig were averaging around profits of $2 to $2.50 per day. After the spike, those numbers jumped up to $5 and $6 per day respectively at the peak of it. That's a lot of money for just leaving your computer to work while you're not actually using it. At that kind of profitability, a 1066 gig at around $250 would be able to pay itself off in 50 days, which is less than 2 months. Unfortunately for miners, the most recent profitability spike was much shorter lived than the one that happened last year. Instead of lasting months, this spike lasted a little over a week before it all came crashing down like a pile of flapjacks at a barnyard dance. Prices for every single better known coin dropped by as little as 10% and as much as 40% in the span of just 1 or 2 days, which made mining a heck of a lot less profitable. That's a good thing for gamers, right, Brett? I hear you ask. And yes, lower profits mean that miners or prospective miners will have a far harder time justifying buying cards now, but see, the damage has already been done. GPU stock has been wiped out and there's no guarantee that it'll come back anytime soon. The lack of stock has raised prices across the boards to record highs, with the likes of the 1066 gig, which should cost no higher than $300, has ballooned all the way up to between $500 and $670. The mighty 1080 Ti, which sold for about $700 when it first launched, is currently going for north of $1,200. And that's cheap compared to most of the other 1080 Ti's I've seen. None of the current gen graphics cards on sale from either the red team or green team are worth their asking price right now. None. And no one has any clue when that'll change. An influx of stock might arrive next week. I highly doubt it, or stock may never return to what it was. We just don't know. What we do know, however, is that Nvidia's next-gen gaming cards are expected to launch later this year, which brings me to my next point. Holding for GeForce Volta. Even though Nvidia isn't all that rushed to bring gaming cards built on their Volta architecture to market, you know, since AMD has basically given up on providing them with any real competition at this point, their official roadmap states that next-gen GeForce cards are scheduled to drop this year. Taking Pascal's launch window into account, we might just be getting those cards as soon as late March or early April. If the Volta base not really built for gaming Titan V is any indication of the performance of the consumer Volta cards, both gamers and miners are in for a treat. The Titan V has already proven remarkably capable of wiping the floor with all of the current GPUs in terms of gaming performance, and also has done the same in mining performance, managing around 70 to 80 megahash per second while mining Ethereum. That's really impressive, but of course at $3,000 it's kind of expected. Even though it's hard to really draw any kind of conclusions about GeForce Volta cards from the Titan V's performance alone, it's extremely likely that they'll outperform their Pascal counterparts by a large margin. This means that if they aren't priced ridiculously right out of the gate, miners and gamers alike will flock to the new cards. This migration will likely reduce the massive strain on Nvidia's 10 series and AMD's RX 500 and RX Vega cards by quite a bit. If that were to happen, we just might see the current gen cards dropping to something resembling the prices that they were at launch, or even lower, and that means if you're buying a card now, depreciation is going to set in real quick. Of course, that's not the ideal outcome. The ideal outcome would be for everyone to be able to get their hands on a brand spanking new Volta card at or a month or two after launch. But realistically, that's probably not going to happen unless the various big cryptocurrencies completely just drop the floor, or Nvidia actually produces enough cards for everyone, which is even less likely. But the prospect of a few dirt cheap 1080, 1080 Ti or RX Vega cards waiting in the wings is an exciting one nonetheless. It just means that buying right now is probably a scary endeavor if you want to resell anything later. And while I'm not comfortable making any of those predictions before gaming Volta cards are even fully unveiled, doing so still feels better than spending hundreds of extra dollars more for cards that have no business being priced the way that they are. Which, speaking of things being priced far more than they should be, RAM pricing is still super stupid. It seems like anyone who is planning on building a PC PC at some point during these last 12 months or so just couldn't catch a break. Just when the GPU stock crisis was beginning to seem like less of a crisis last year, builders were hit with a sizable DDR4 RAM increase. That price increase never really went away, and just when you thought it couldn't get much worse, it totally did. Every time you refresh the page on Amazon, the numbers on those RAM kits go higher. RAM prices soared again at the end of last year and has more or less stayed that way. According to the PC Part Picker, in 2016, you could grab a 16 gig kit of 3200 megahertz RAM for a little more than $120. The price of that exact same kit more than doubled towards the end of last year to around $250. That's insane. Since then, we've seen pricing drop a little on similar kits sold by various brands like Corsair's Vengeance LPX 3200 megahertz kit going for $230, but it's by no means the norm and is still more than most people would be comfortable paying for 16 gigs of RAM. While the cause for this particular pricing trend can't be blamed on miners this time, it's happening for almost the exactly same reason: supply and demand. Almost every single company that's somehow involved in tech and their dogs are looking for some sweet DDR4 memory. Companies like Samsung and Apple need as much DDR4 as they can get to stuff into their various products. Phones are one of the biggest culprits here, accounting for 1/3 of the global memory chip market. The mobile market keeps stuffing more products with more and more RAM, and manufacturers just can't keep up with the demand from that market as well as the PC market. Luckily, there does seem to be a glimmer of hope as Reuters reports that memory chip price drops might lead to cheaper RAM modules this year. According to the site, in an interview with an analyst, memory chips will likely see a gradual price decline in 2018 if demand remains strong and appetite from servers holds. But until then, RAM pricing is showing absolutely no chill. And as someone who loves them some Trident Z RGB goodness, that's a very sad thing indeed. But let's cheer ourselves up a bit. AMD's new Pinnacle Ridge chips are coming in hot. So we've known for a while now that AMD is planning on refreshing the Ryzen lineup of CPUs sometime this year. And even though there wasn't all that much info to go on, we couldn't help but gush all about it. Heck, we even gushed even more when AMD so sneakily teased some of the improvements coming with the Zen Plus architecture at CES a couple weeks ago. We love the original Ryzen lineup mostly because they're fantastic chips for anyone that does more than just game on their systems, thanks to a high core count running at decent clock speeds at great prices. We love Ryzen even more because it allowed AMD to finally bring the fight to Intel in a big way, forcing them to actually listen to their customers. Unfortunately, Ryzen chips fall short when it comes to pure gaming horsepower, at least compared to Intel's chips like the monstrous 8700K, primarily because they couldn't manage much more than a 4.1 gigahertz clock speed. But that might all change with the launch of the Zen Plus architecture. It was rumored last year that the new Ryzen chips would bring a decent clock speed boost along with them, and AMD has confirmed that rumor at CES. The company didn't explain how large of a clock speed increase we're looking at here, but many have speculated that the new chips, which are built on the 12 nanometer process, could be capable of running at a base and boost clock of 4.2 and 4.4 gigahertz respectively. Unfortunately, that speculated clock speed might be a little too optimistic. A leak courtesy of Sys Software Sandra entry recently popped up, and it seems to show info for the new Ryzen 2600, the possible replacement for the Ryzen 5 1600. Where the Ryzen 1600 manages a base and boost clock of 3.2 and 3.6 gigahertz, the 2600 seems to be clocked at 3.4 and 3.8 gigahertz. Sure, it's not 4 gigahertz plus, but it's a significant jump nonetheless, and that's without the user overclocking applied. With the decent overclock, we may yet see those chips break through that 4.1 gigahertz barrier that currently holds the Ryzen chips back, but that's something that we'll have to test when we get our hands on one. Now, while a few hundred megahertz jump might not seem like much, at the right price, it should be enough to convince anyone considering a current Ryzen chip to think twice. It might also provide Intel with even more healthy competition, hopefully forcing them to drop the prices of their Coffee Lake lineup at least a little, but there's no chance that's ever going to happen anyway, so why would I even say that? Intel's never going to drop their prices. All of that means that consumers should be the big winners in 2018 as long as they can hold out just a little longer. How much longer? Well, according to AMD, Ryzen Plus will be unleashed sometime in April. But that means if you're a consumer looking to buy a gaming PC right now, you have to decide. Buy now, buy later. It's a complicated mess. And then it's just as bad on Intel's side. We should expect a Coffee Lake refresh with 8-core consumer i7s and a Z390 motherboard sometime in the first half of this year. Not only did Coffee Lake dropping at the end of last year help muddy the waters with giving us some healthy competition choices from Intel, they did so with what appeared to be a half-baked launch with their flagship chip not even dropping until a month or few from now. Do you buy the 8700K? Do you wait for the 8900K or whatever it'll be called? We don't know. So yes, not only is building a gaming PC right now incredibly expensive, it's also 100% certified stupid sauce. With the promise of better, faster, and probably cheaper products right around the corner, going for current gen tech now just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Even if you're not interested in all of the improvements coming with Nvidia's new GPUs or AMD's new CPUs, you'd still be better off waiting for the inevitable price drops on the used market. And even with AMD's price drops on the current Ryzen lineup that they've announced, it still makes it so you're stuck between a rock and an Autobot. On the one hand, the best value CPUs just got even better value, and on the other hand, you could get a better performing chip for the same price that you were willing to pay a couple weeks ago. And quick mention to the fact that budget systems are particularly in a stupid bind, because not only are 1060s jacked up to a stupid price, but honestly, your only choice on a CPU for building a proper budget rig is Ryzen right now if you want to buy brand new. Sure, Intel has i3 chips, but when you get an i3 8100 with only a Z370 chipset, it's just an odd, stupid place to be in where Intel clearly isn't thinking about the consumer, even though we're like 3 months past when all the Coffee Lake CPUs dropped. Honestly, even though upgrading your rig or building a new one sucks right now, and let's not fool ourselves, it sucks even harder than I do at PUBG, which is worse than a pork belly pig at a slaughterhouse. However, the potential for it to not only get better, but get even better than it was many months ago is definitely there, and that's something to be super hyped about. But it just sucks for everyone in the market right now. High prices are rampant on nearly everything, which makes even partially upgrading a rig a pain in the butt, let alone you trying to build a full system. What are all of your frustrations with building a gaming PC right now? Are you waiting for future tech, or are you waiting for current tech to go on sale, or to even return to normal? Let me know either down in the comments or over on Twitter. I'm at UFDisciple. If you're interested in supporting us here at the UFD Tech channel, you can pick up your parts for your gaming rig on Amazon using our affiliate code down in the description. It's free for you, but it helps keep the lights on here and feed our families. If you found any of this information helpful, be sure to smash that like button and get subscribed to stay up to date on all of our tech related content. Anyways, I'm Brett with the UFD Tech channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers.